There you go. See? Now we're good. Cool. Whew. How are we all?
Good.
Present, vertical, taking nourishment.
Better than usual then, Mike.
What's that?
Better than usual then, huh?
Nothing unusual. Lots of naps.
Cool.
Love a nap.
Wasn't it the old red skeleton joke where he'd get up every morning, get the newspaper, look at the obituaries. If his name wasn't there, he'd have a great day.
Sounds about right. Are we all vaccinated?
Yes.
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 One of two.
Hey,
Friday number 2.
there you go. Looking good, huh?
It's a good feeling after you get the second one.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's a step along the way.
Yeah.
It certainly is. It gives you a sense of optimism, doesn't it? Or at
Yeah.
least it did for us. You know, we keep looking. We look at the plans. You know, hey, should we do this? Because we have a new grandson in California, and one that we haven't seen that's nearly a year old in Brooklyn.
I've got the same thing, a new grandson in California who's going to be 10 months old. We're going out April 1.
Oh, you are?
We're doing it. Yep.
Well, we were looking, and then we looked at the North Carolina stats, which are still regarded as very high, and we go,
Yeah.
soon, I hope. Let's
I think
see.
it's more about what the variant's going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway,
I think it's going to be like a flu shot every year.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't think twice about getting a flu shot every year. You're going to get a COVID shot every year.
yeah, you have arms like pin cushions before too long, huh?
Yeah.
They used to do that to us when we were at sea. We used to, depending on where we were going, we used to have all these shots. And it used to kill me for weeks on end, you know, one after another. And then, anyway, we are very fortunate, I think. Welcome, everybody. I don't think we got anybody new, have we? Everybody's been here before. Yeah. So what's on the agenda, Bill?
Well,
The non-agenda.
what agenda? Yeah. Well, evidently, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Michael doing something on Flickr, and then I put something out about teleconverters. So Michael said, go with the teleconverters. We can do Flickr another day.
There you go.
But yeah, what I wanted to do is 2 parts here. One is just to kind of explain to those not familiar with teleconverters a little bit about them. And then also to try to find out anybody's experience within the group on using them. Because what I have found out is that it can be confusing. It's not just simple to buy one and say it's going to work. So, you know, if there's some experiences out there that, you know, would help, it'll sure help me.
Well, I've certainly used them on the Canon systems. Canon's own.
Yeah, because what I've done is, this is a teleconverter here. What it is this part of the teleconverter fits into the camera just like you would your lens. And on the insides here, there's all the connections. So for your autofocus, for being able to do your aperture, you know, you got everything in there. And you'll see there's a piece of glass. And that's what actually just takes the lens a little further away from your sensor to be able to get closer to your image. So basically what this is doing is extending the focal length of the lens that's on your camera. This here is what they call 1.4 times. So it gives you 40% more reach in your camera. So if you had a 50 millimeter lens on it, this would add 20 millimeters to it. So your reach will be out just a little further. One of the consequences of it is the depth of it. You lose almost a stop of light. So if you were taking a picture before at, let's say a shutter speed of 250, and you put this on using the same f-stop and the same ISO, you'd be shooting at 125. Now, what I've really had an issue with this, well, maybe what I'll do first. Ta-da.
Now you're just showing off.
Again, this is just attached right to your camera, just like you put a lens in. And then you take the lens. And it's done. That's all there's to it. Now, this is camera specific. This is for a Nikon. It works with some lenses. It doesn't work with other lenses. This is the real issue that I have, and some of the questions that hopefully somebody will have some experience. This 1x4, I can use Nikon lenses with the Nikon camera, and it'll work. It'll autofocus. If I put it on a Tamron lens, it hunts. So it seems like maybe it's an older teleconverter, because this is a teleconverter that could be 20 years old. Maybe it doesn't have some of the technology in it. But yeah, it's a hit and miss. I can put my one Tamron lens, the 24-70, and one time it worked, and then one time it didn't work. So I don't know if it's a connection issue. I don't know if it's a technology issue. You know, if I got a newer version, or if I got the Nikon version, if it'd be that much better, or a Tamron version. I don't know.
So is that a third-party product, Bill?
Yeah, this is, at the time they were known as Kenko Tokina,
Oh, okay.
which the newer ones, you just see the Kenko on them. And Nikon, I'm not sure if it's just Nikon, they also make a 1x1.7, which means that you would now get 70% further reach on it. I don't have one of those, but this one you can see is a little wider. This is the 1.4, this is the 2. So it's taking again your lens a little further away from the sensor. And this now is a 2x, which means that 50 millimeter lens could now be a 100 millimeter lens. Most of what I've read, and maybe somebody can confirm this, that once you go to 2x into 3x, 3 times, autofocus really doesn't work. You have to go to manual. I've gone onto a number of websites and they tell me different things. So I'd be really curious with anybody's experience out there using teleconverters, what they've found. And again, this one is just wider. It's just taking the lens further away from the sensor to give you that larger reach. Now, I have used the 3x with I have a Tamron 28-300. And, I had to go to manual, completely manual to even use it. Now, what also you have to understand too, if you're new to teleconverters, 2x, you can see that it's wider. Well, that also creates less light coming through from the lens to the sensor. This means you're going to have to adjust by 2 f-stops, where the 1.4 was 1. Add the third one, you can see it's even wider. You're going to lose 3 f-stops. So, what I've read a lot of saying that these would tend to work good with lenses that have a low f-stop. So when you go from 2.8 to 4 to 5.6 or even to 8, you have that range to still take, you have enough latitude to get the light that you want. But I don't know. I've had my issues with this, trying to figure this stuff out. So if there's anybody out there that knows any kind of, better rules about the teleconverters.
Well, I'm not so sure there are rules, particularly when you're mixing brands. I've only used the Canon ones on Canon's long lenses, and Canon are very specific. They will tell you that a lot of their lenses you simply can't use them with. So there's a restricted set, and those that you can use them with, often you can't get autofocus because the lens won't stop down enough. So the range of apertures on the lens fall outside where it will focus. So I think your experience, it sounds like you're having a bit more of a dramatic experience, but it's not outside of the constraints for using teleconverters, but I would say.
Because even a lot of what I've read is that they seem to work better with prime lenses versus telephoto lenses.
The only thing I was going to say, I have used them on Zoom. I used to use them quite a bit on my 100-400, the same one that Mike B uses, and that worked okay. But you really have to choose. I wouldn't use it for general photography, so I was doing aviation photography, and that was the only real time that I would use them. I mean, I'd carry them and I'd use them for that. And in general, I was shooting in tons of light because I want usually a fairly high shutter speed. So, you end up that you get some degradation from the converter. You're going to be shooting, you want high shutter speed, so you're generally shooting at a higher aperture, and these things start to compound and you end up with not very good looking pictures. My best advice is avoid them if you can. I know that easy to say and not so easy to do, but for general photography, it's something I would very, very, very rarely use. Very rarely.
And following up on a couple of things that Graham said, I mean, it's absolutely true. It's a good way to get a longer focal length lens at not much price comparatively. If you are not doing things that you want to try to print big or whatever, the price is probably worth spending. But in terms of image degradation, anything that is a flaw of the lens that you put in front of a teleconverter, any flaw of that lens out front is going to be exacerbated once you put a teleconverter on it. And that includes contrast, includes flare, anything that the lens out in front of the teleconverter has as a problem. You're going to see more of with a teleconverter. I have a 1.4. I tend to be equipment rich and talent poor. I haven't used it very much, but I'm a gearhead.
I have a 1.4 Canon teleconverter that I use. I've used it with a 75 to 300 Canon L series and the 100 to 400 Canon L series lens. And like Michael said, I found image degradation that depending on the subject, I shoot a lot of birds, depending on the subject, it's okay. But I found that, I have a Canon 5D, which is a good full frame sensor Canon. And I have a Canon 7D, which is a crop sensor. And I use that Canon 7D with the crop sensor preferentially for shooting birds with a 400 millimeter telephoto lens because the crop factor is 1.6. So I get the 7D has a very good quality sensor. It's their professional grade crop sensor. and I get out of the, have a 640 millimeter lens instead of a 400 millimeter lens, and I don't see that degradation.
That's one reason I've hung on to my Nikon D300 and shoot a lot of stuff with it, even though I have the D300 is a crop sensor, just like Mike said, and my 700 is a full frame. But I mean, there are benefits to having a crop sensor camera, and that's one of them.
The other thing I would say, Bill, is if it sounded as though your converters were quite long in the tooth, if any of them, a lot of the third-party lenses, Tamron's particularly, and Sigma's, and so on, are now doing software updates. So if your lenses are capable of having software updates, or the converters, I would make sure that you've done that, because they do change them quite a bit, I think. But other than that, I think you're hearing it from the people who've struggled, same as you have.
Yeah, and I thought it was important because the last time we got together, we got a list of things people were interested in. It was everything from extension tubes to teleconverters and things like that. And I thought it'd be important to at least show the complexity of it. What the value is of it if you want one, but you have to really pay attention to what you buy, to make sure it works. Because I was looking at the Tamron 150 to 600, which I think Mike has. And Tamron has a 1.4 teleconverter that's made kind of to match with that and two other lenses. But I don't know. I'm not really sure I'd even take a chance of it because, again, how much degradation of the image are you going to have? Your little loss of light. Yeah, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yep.
And let me add one other thing that's more general than specific, but for extras that you probably don't really need but have a desire to get, if you have gas like I do, gear acquisition syndrome, shop used, B&H, Autorama, all those places sell used stuff, and you can find all kinds of good gear, including teleconverters, for a smaller price, not a fraction, but a smaller of the price, so that if it's something that you're not going to use a whole lot, and I think a teleconverter would fall into that category, shop used.
But I just want to add to what Mike has said. I use KEH.com.
Yeah.
And KEH is in Atlanta. And I just bought a lens from them. They have various grades, like new, very good, and bargain, and then ugly. So ugly is the cheapest, but that doesn't mean it's a bad lens. It just looks like it's been beat up in a mix master or something. But that's a good operator. And if you've had everything wrong with the lens, you can send it right back. I think have a 180-day buyback. So just a KEH.
Yeah, and that KEH is a good company as well. And a lot of the photo forums, like Nikonians for Nikon, I'm sure there are things out there for Canon as well. Those forums, oftentimes have for sale sections in them as well. So.
And also, if anyone has a Nikon out there and just wants to give any of these a shot, borrow them.
So to speak.
Yeah, borrow it. Yeah, before you even buy anything, if you can, because I'd make these available to anybody to try. I mean,
and building on that, I was just about to mention, don't forget renting can be a useful way to try things out without spending a lot of money for both lenses and for teleconverters. So cool, good stuff. Anything more for Bill?
complex.
Okay.
That was interesting.
We want to look at pictures.
that what we're
We
here?
actually have some.
We might. We didn't have a ton this week, actually. Not a ton, but let me see.
That's ironic.
for?
Okay, come on. There we go. All right.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't know why you're laughing. I know some men who would like shoes like that.
I love it.
That's great.
I don't think it's AJ. AJ is not here, is he? We scared him
Didn't
off.
see him.
I think this is AJ's.
Yeah. I wanted to ask him how long it took him to set that display up so he'd have a picture for irony. And whether he got kicked out by security.
That is great.
It really is.
So this one, I think, meets the challenge very, very well. But technically, I'm seeing a lot of noise in it. I don't know whether this was an iPhone. Do I know? Hang on.
Can everyone see it? Because I can't see anything on my screen.
I
Oh.
can see it.
I
I was wondering if he just cloned out the W and O on women's shoes.
could-
There's an idea.
I wondered that too,
Oh, very.
yeah, because he always does some kind of,
You know.
Trick.
yeah, yeah.
That's a very good point. We should challenge him on that next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
thought. Bob, are you seeing anything now?
You should be able to zoom in there and see whether he did it or not, unless he did a really, really
I'm
good
gonna
job.
get out and try to go back in again.
Well, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Okay, so AJ, we can't take the Mickey out of AJ in person. We'll have to wait.
Oh,
Uh,
be done.
this might have been AJ's. Yeah, it is. This is AJ's. Observations? Feedback?
What is that?
Highly
What-
edited.
Can you tell what that is?
It's got to be a turkey.
No, that's the Muscovy duck in the
Yeah.
lower pond at Farrington Village.
What's in its mouth? Is that, I don't know, what is that?
Oh,
Normal.
Look what he did, look what he did. He
Yeah.
flipped the reflection.
the reflection.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we know about shoes.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Did he
Good
do
catch.
that in GIMP? That's another GIMP class.
Yeah, good
Oh, I
question.
didn't notice.
This is another one that I love, but the technical, the subject matter and the composition and so on and so forth are great. The technicals in this, again, that it's extremely noisy. And look at the chromatic aberration up here. I would have just got rid of all of this. But yeah, I mean, great fit with the subject and very well done. I
Who
mean,
would have thought?
it took me a
I
I
while.
didn't.
I kept looking at this and
I didn't
thinking,
even notice it.
ironic. All right.
That's mine. Most people expect to see a bird photo with the head of the bird. And, that's the same mallard that was in the previous shot, the male mallard. And I caught him and his partner doing a lot of feeding on the shallow area of the pond and just couldn't resist. I don't know if this qualifies as bird porn or not, but
Yeah, you've got it bass backwards. So.
now I have to figure out how to put the head as a reflection.
There you go. This made me laugh a lot, Mike. My father was in the Royal Air Force, and one of his closest friends in the Royal Air Force was a guy called Roy Suppards. And they never called him by his first name. He was always known as R. Suppards. And so this one made me laugh. I think it's good. It's incredibly
Glad.
sharp. What did you shoot this with, Mike?
My 7D with a 100 to 400 Canon L lens,
Wow.
and they were pretty close. So
What a detail in the feathers.
yeah, thanks.
Looks cool. Nicely done.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is mine also. You shot with an iPhone. There's a little story behind this. I was on a motorcycle trip attending a rally in Colorado Springs, and a friend of mine that traveled with me, we decided to go to Aspen, cross Independence Pass. And on the eastern side of Independence Pass is a little town called Twin Lakes, Colorado. And as we approach the town, we see this police car by the side of the road, and slow down and check the speed to make sure we're not speeding, go through the town, go to Aspen. On the way back, we stopped, and I almost thought of showing the photo of the gas station that's just across the street from this car, which is named Pass Gas. And but so the town obviously has a good sense of humor, and it's really only a crossroads. But anyway, we get our gas. We at the Pass Gas general store, go in, get a snack, and something didn't seem right about the car. So I kind of walked over and noticed that it was just basically a car with a mannequin in it, and which is one up from just an empty police car. And so I walked over into the little historic center, which is a one-room building, and on the side of the road, and just to see what they had, and talked to the guy. And basically they said, yeah, we just the car was being accessed by the county, so we bought it, put it there, and put in the mannequin with the uniform. And I wanted to know if it was still there. This was in 2017. And so I went on to Google Maps and satellite and looked at it yesterday, and they've moved it. The car's still there, but they moved it.
Ah. So it only catches the tourists, huh? The locals are all in on the scam.
Yeah, I think so.
Mike, I've been through there. I know
you've seen-
exactly. Yeah, I don't remember seeing this, but I've been through that town. It's like blink and it's gone.
Yeah.
But you better drive slow.
Yeah.
Well, to me, this is better than you go to some places out in the far reaches of Maryland. I once went to a conference there long before I lived here, and the local sheriffs didn't give you any warning at all, and they loved the folks who were coming into these conventions. They had them pulled over in droves. I think it was the revenue generator for the local sheriff. So these guys at least give you a heads up, huh? Very good.
Yeah, and they're basically the mannequin's not going to throw on the siren and track you down.
Right. I
I
like
was
it.
about to say, Mike, that the real trick on the locals would be, especially if the sheriff wanted to lose the next election, would be to put a real deputy in that car. And
Yep. Very cool. Well done.
that's Graham's.
I thought for a moment somebody had been and nicked my car, but no, it's a Tesla.
You're right.
Oh, it's sure.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
so it's not a gas guzzler.
Right. Last week, there's a TV show called Big Sky.
Yeah.
And there was a scene where the guy who was abducting the kids, the truck driver, was in a Tesla. And they had in a scene where he stopped, and there was electric towers on both sides of him with the electric lines going overhead. So to me, that was product placement for Tesla. So I remembered that when I was out in Oklahoma doing some storm chasing, that I had taken pictures of these, I don't know if they call them oil horses or whatever it is. So I just decided to go out onto Google and found a picture of a Tesla, downloaded it, and just kind of decided to just put it out in the meadow there, out in the field. The irony, of course, being the oil versus electric.
Those machines in the background in the Netherlands are called yes nodders. Nobody
Yes
here calls
nodders.
them that, I don't think. But yeah, they're called yes nodders. So you've pulled a couple of stunts on us here, Bill, because that car's not yet built, is it?
What?
It's a non-car. It's not yet built.
Correct.
Prototype.
It just had the little T in the front. That's all I cared.
Good.
Right. So
It
this,
might be-
I like this photo a lot, but this is how you spot the problems. This is how you spot that Bill's being devious. Look,
Oh, yeah.
he's left the shadow in here when the light is from behind.
Yeah,
But very good.
I gave myself a 5-minute time span to get this done.
You did a good job of cutting it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the Photoshop elements,
Yeah.
pretty easy.
Yeah.
I did the initial selection and I did a little, what do they call it, refinement, just to,
Yeah.
to get a little bit off of there. But yeah, it was fun. It just plop it, I'm done.
Bill, do you remember where in Oklahoma you were?
Say again?
Do you remember where in Oklahoma you were?
Well, I had stayed just north of Oklahoma City for about 5 days. So it was probably within about a 50-mile radius.
Yeah, close to where I was for 30 years in Stillwater.
Oh, it's Stillwater. Yep. I went through there.
Cool. Well done, Bill.
That's fun.
It was just goofy. That's all. Now, this one's mine too. And there was nothing special done to this picture because that's exactly what that flag looks like. It's one where when we had the challenge of old buildings, and I happened to go up Route 87, and I didn't even realize this flag until I looked at the pictures later on, where half of the flag is the American flag and the other half is a Confederate flag. So there's a little irony.
Yes, it is.
A house divided.
Yep.
Yep.
But, and the thing is, one thing I did use was GIMP.
Oh, you did?
This picture was all done, but I wanted to bring out the blues and the reds a little more. And I remembered how you could choose the color and then make it a little stronger, a little weaker. So they helped maybe make it pop out of the dead trees, dormant trees a little bit.
Cool.
Good.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah, that's mine. It's reserved parking, but I'm not quite sure for whom. It's I used to go to the Y here in Pittsburgh, and when I was working out, my picture window looked upon this property that it was kind of weird because it looked like it's framed in, but it's just the wall and arches and there's nothing there. But I always wanted to take a picture of that reserved parking space because you ask the question, well, if somebody did park there, where would they go? So I don't know. It was funny to me.
Well, nicely seen, nicely executed. Did you chop the top off of the parking sign, or is it just?
I did chop off quite a bit because they had sewer lines that were actually put into the ground, and they had big pipes around it. So I just wanted to get rid of all that white, and so I
Right.
just cropped the sign a little bit just to avoid those.
Hey, Larry,
I tried doing spot removal, but it didn't work.
hey, I wonder if you had panned out more or, had more of nothingness in there, whether it would have a more ironic impact, a larger ironic impact to show that there's nothing around that reserved handicap parking.
Actually, there is. There's a whole lot with parking spaces. But the building that's right next to it is occupied. So I took about 100 pictures and I tried to figure out, you know, just to highlight the fact that not only is the sign crooked, but which is real, but there was nothing really there to enter into. That was it. Yeah. But thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Cool. Well done.
Where, oops, sorry, where was that picture taken, the last one?
It was downtown, it's on East Street in downtown Pittsburgh, which has a big water tank in the, as you drive by it, a big wooden water tank. And it's a nice building. And the Y is located on the first floor. And they have other offices upstairs. But it's occupied. But this looks like it's abandoned. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yep.
Thanks.
The former site of Pittsburgh Ice and Fuel.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this one is
For
mine.
old timers, people who've been around since the early 70s. That's the way I always think of it.
We went for a walk at this Henry Anderson Park outside of Chapel Hill off of Route 54. And it's not a place we usually go to. And as we were walking, I saw par 6 or par 3, hole 6. And I'm thinking, not really what I usually see. I was looking for a fairway, a green. Didn't say, I thought it was a little ironic. So, but
Frisbee golf.
yeah. And that's what somebody said. They said it's probably a Frisbee sign for Frisbee golf.
Oh,
So
really?
I thought it was a little ironic.
There is such a thing?
Oh, yeah.
I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
God, I
pretty
lead a
good.
sheltered life.
And all I had was my iPhone. You know, hadn't even thought about taking a picture at this place or being prepared. So this is with an iPhone. I just cropped it a little bit.
That's great.
Excellent. Well done. I like that a lot, Bob. Okay.
That one is mine. The irony to me is we've got this falling down place and we've got in pride of place, dish. And I left all of the slop in front, the fire ant hill and the tires and the old log, just to kind of add to the story. This picture is all story. It's not a good picture, but it just talks about poverty to me.
Yeah.
It's good.
Very nice.
I parked on the side of the road and I took about 5 pictures right quick, and I looked one way and I thought, I'm either going to get run over or shot. So I didn't. I put it on fully automatic. Everything, got what I could and kept going. So,
There's irony in that.
yeah.
Definitely.
Well, Helen, it's definitely in focus.
Is it? I can't tell. That's why I put it on autofocus. The whole camera was on auto because I didn't like the looks of the neighborhood. I was afraid I was going to get shot or run over. So
Maybe shot and then run over.
yeah, either or both.
Okay.
It's on Farrington Point Road on the back way from Farrington to Durham, and that's always just tickled me.
Good.
Okay, that's mine. So what I was going for is Corona beer is a party and coronavirus is the opposite. Right? So I don't know.
Oh, I think it worked really well. This one made me laugh too.
Real subtle, but I like that.
Yep.
I think
I think
early on there was some fake news going around that Corona beer caused coronavirus, so it's even appropriate for that.
Boy, that is sharp. That is a sharp picture. Not sharp beer, but a sharp picture too.
Yep. So, I mean, one of my comments on this one was that I like it because it meets both the challenge and it's technically well executed. And I think we've seen a lot of ironic photos and there's a bit of variety in the technical execution. So to me, I think the ones that really stand out are the ones that both tell the story and have pretty good technical aspects too, or acceptable technical aspects. So good job. I think that's excellent and simply done. I mean, I can never, whenever I see these, AJ does a lot of tabletop stuff and I always look and I go, God, that was, why don't I think this way? And I don't, I never think this way. I find it really hard, but I have a friend in Canada whose book I just promoted on the Facebook page. And I'm going to read his book and do more tabletop stuff. So hopefully you might see some from me in due course. We'll see. But good job, excellent. I like that a lot.
And Beth, was this with iPhone?
Yep.
Well, and what gets me about that is the depth of field, because that's one of the issues with phone, with using the phone as a camera, because it's more difficult, if not impossible, to control depth of field.
Right.
And I mean, it's sharp where it needs to be sharp and blurry. And that background is not that far away from the back beer bottle.
No.
And how that happened. I mean, that's why I like it. I mean, I don't think you'd ever guess this was an iPhone photo.
Well, I can share that on the iPhone 11, at least, it has a portrait setting. And so that's the portrait setting that fades out the background. Yeah. And that, yeah, I was probably within 2 feet of it, maybe a little further back, maybe 3 feet. But I had fun picking out that's a shirt.
Oh, I like it.
I had fun
Really
picking
good.
out the right
Tommy Bahama.
Jimmy Buffett feel for the background. Yeah.
And the colors are great.
Yep.
Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
perfect.
Nicely seen and nicely thought through and
Yeah.
executed. Good job.
This is Mark's, and he sent a note around saying that
All right.
he had one thing after another, shoulder and all of that today, but this was a shot that he took shortly before a hurricane hit.
Oh.
About a week before, and I was trying to get the email up before his photo came up, and I didn't succeed in that.
So I think you should feed back to him, Mike, that we knew instantly that this was a Mark Herbert photograph because the horizon wasn't level.
That's cruel.
he said this, that he did this last year because he couldn't hold his camera up yet. And so he can't use his shoulder as an excuse that it's not level. It was Cujo Keys in Florida. This is the place that is the exact hit by the hurricane last year, and we were there 1 month prior.
Wow.
So
it's cool.
I thought the irony was that looks like mushroom cloud in the from an atomic bomb.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to, I have a phone call that I need to take, so I'm gonna say goodbye, but thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so you need to give Mark the feedback about the horizon, Mike.
You know, I'm going to tell him that Graham has an observation about his picture, and he should either call you or just watch the video.
There you go. Cool.
Hey, and what? And oh, no, I want to make a comment about Silver Arts at the end, and seeing this reminded me of Mark and that. So remind me to do that
Okay,
when we're done.
we'll do that.
Wow.
Not so rosy.
Okay, who's claiming Rosie?
That's mine. That's mine.
Tell us the story, Tom.
Okay. Alice and I were driving around in southern Virginia, northeast of South Boston, not far over the North Carolina line. Anyway, it was a kind of a very gray, wet day, and we were visiting a Civil War site up there, and it was right maybe a month or so after the ash dump on the Dan River that was caused by Duke Power. And after we visited the battlefield site, we saw this enormous Duke Power site with huge, very forbidding signs that said "Stay out." No, absolutely no entrance. And there was a giant smokestacks with doing their smokestack thing. And so we looked at that. I got out, took pictures of the signs, and then drove on. And maybe, I don't know, in my mind, it was half a mile later, we went through this town called Clover, which is ironic in itself, but it's a de facto ghost town in this area. And I saw that building and I thought, oh my God, Rosie's. I've got to take a picture of that. So we got out. And since then, I've worked on it a lot over the years. And it's gotten to be, I guess, my most favorite photograph that I've made. So in my post-processing software, if you introduce a adjustment layer, it's in fact a mask, and I pitched the brightness, the highlights level all the way to the absolute minimum, so that you've got that sort of apocalyptic background there with those trees that look like they've been x-rayed. And then after that, I realized, as I've learned more about the software, that since it's a mask, you can erase part of the mask. So I erased the building from underneath the mask, and then I worked on those cracks a lot. I eliminated a lot of them. I took out the yellow line down the middle, and I think the effect is sort of horrific, but sort of also
Great.
warm. Pardon?
It's great.
Pardon?
It's absolutely wonderful. I'm just
Yeah.
enthralled by it.
Hey, Tom,
Yeah, I think it's the nicest photograph I've made. Yes.
is there a no parking sign on the left-hand side?
Yes, there is. Good eye. Good eye.
And as you also see is that the apocalyptic look, and underneath the word Rosie is a 4-leaf clover, which is supposed to be good luck.
Right. It was just so hopeful. The building was so hopeful and sad to me. And I showed the photograph to my brother, who's a art history sort of guy. And I had been thinking of those cracks as being encroaching destruction, but he saw them as tears. Anyway, I think it's the nicest photograph that I have.
Good one.
Well, it's nice. It's open 7 days a week.
I think the angle of the chimney is what's, I mean, I've never seen it. You'd think it would be falling over if it was that.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see I included 2 photographs, and the next one addresses that. So.
Yeah, I find the artifacting on the trees distracting from the image, Tom. I know it. I'm glad you told us that you wanted to do that, and that was a deliberate move. But for me, I find they distract. But I love the image. It's a well seen and well captured image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to leave those there because of the juxtaposition of the ash emitting coal power plant.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Oh, great.
Leslie gets her wish.
Yeah.
I guess
Now,
I've
if
said
there's
enough.
some smoke coming out of that.
What is
At an
it?
angle, right? The smoke
Right.
at an angle. Right?
What is it made of? Looks like
It
grass.
doesn't- I have bricks, I guess. I don't know. I can't figure it out. It looks curved.
Yeah.
It looks like it was angled just to perfectly match the angle of the roof. I mean, it's symmetrical. Wonder if it was built that way.
Is that a chimney or is that a wall that was part of an adjacent building?
No, I think if you, oh, well, I don't know. If you go back, I think it's the chimney.
It could be something that's tipped over the vines that looks like vines have wrapped around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see what it looks like when the vines are in green.
I thought the irony of it was that this sort of childish simplicity of the roof line. If you ask a child to draw a building, it might turn out something like that, and then you have against it, you have this ancient, wizened old creature that's stove in on top of this childish line.
And Graham, when you're telling Mark to get his horizon straight, you can say, what they should look like is this, and then show Tom's picture.
Well, I had that siding that I had to begging to be obeyed.
So Tom, I notice in a lot of your photographs artifacting, and I see it very strongly in this one. Is that something that you seek to do, or is it creeping in?
No, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't.
Can you point out where it is that you're seeing it,
sure.
Graham?
So look at this particularly. You see the lines around the edges and here. So that's all artifacting, and it depends on. I'm not sure how Tom's processing, but you can see it. You know, there's a little line. It looks a little like chromatic aberration, but I don't think it is. I think it's a processing artifact, and you often get it on edges.
Yeah.
Is that part of the masking that you did?
So yeah, as I said, I erased the mask around there, and I don't know. It was I couldn't decide where to stop, and like I said, it doesn't bother me. It's like, oh well, that's masking. That's artifact.
Cool.
That's art.
Tom, is this a blow up of the previous photo, or was it a close up? It's independent.
No, this is a zoom of post processing zoom of the previous photo.
And if you were to go back to the previous one, I'm betting that gets so minute that you couldn't see it in that one, but you can see it once it gets blown up.
Well, I kind of worried about in the lower right hand corner as you look at it. I didn't like that. I would like to have brought out the vine more in there and not have that X-ray look.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it, and it was starting to get messy, and I didn't.
And what are you using for processing, Tom? Post processing?
Affinity.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that it? Is that really it? Oh, that's it. Hey, we were really short of photographs this week, so not many at all.
this is a song I sing a whole lot, but I mean, here was another very unusual theme or challenge, and people wrung their hands, but look what we got.
Right.
Yeah.
Graham,
Yeah.
I actually sent in, this is Betty, I sent in pictures, but I just checked and somehow the email never got to you. So I just sent it to you now. Do you have access to?
Hang
or
on.
that's too hard to.
Let me see whether we can, because we have to do some maneuvering. Let's.
Well, Graham, while you're looking for that, let me make the comment that I started to make a minute ago while you bring up her photos.
Sure.
But
Go ahead, please.
I think that the beginning, the opening of registration is March 22nd for Senior Olympics and Silver Arts. And in the past, for Silver Arts, there have been very few photographs submitted. For Silver Arts, there's a digital category, there is a film category. And I don't mind getting first or second.
You don't?
Over the years with, well, I mind losing to Mark, but I don't mind getting first or second, but I would like to know that if I do that, it's of a group of 10, 20, rather than it just being Mark and me. So, well, like the guy said in his resume, I finished third in my class, but it ought to be noted that there are only 4 in my class. But give consideration to checking out Senior Olympics, Silver Arts, and submitting some photographs. There are some things in this group that will do well, and so I'm just encouraging the competition.
Where is it, Mike? Where do we find it?
I can send a copy of the email that Liz Lottie at the Senior Center sent to me, but I can also send the state registration form.
Okay, that'd be cool.
But if you look at ncseniorgames.org, you'll see all of the events, both physical and Silver Arts. And Silver Arts includes photography, carving, wood turning, quilting,
knitting, crocheting,
knitting. Yeah,
oh, really?
I mean I mean all and some of the Silver Arts are not visual arts. There are poems, there are short stories, and there's been fair turnout in Chatham County for a lot of those events, but for the photography stuff, not so much.
Cool.
Okay, that's my announcement.
Hey, Michael.
Yes, sir.
I just wondered, I just noticed on their website that one of them is, one of the Silver Arts competition is cheerleading. And I was wondering if InFocus wanted to get a cheerleading squad.
Hey, listen. I've seen the cheerleaders that do that, and you don't want to mess with them. You know, just give that up. Yeah, the costumes and everything. It's just one of the most.
We got a squad right here InFocus.
I think the thought of Herbert in tight white shorts, you know, could just cheer us up for a few
Graham,
weeks.
I'll do it once you're ready to do your backflip or your high dive from the pyramid.
All right, here we go. Here's Betty's pet kangaroo.
Okay, this as Helen said, this is more story than it is a good picture, but we had a lot of trouble with the deer and everything this last week. Well, we had trouble with the squirrels and the bird feeders. So we got these nifty bullet, ballasts to keep away the squirrels. So the herd of deer came through this last week, and before I knew it, this guy was up there eating. So we moved that all around, and I thought we'd solved all our problems. And then you have the second picture then too? So, so then look out there, and this guy is happy in there. Yeah,
That's great.
I really did try to post-process these, but between the light being bad and just a variety of things, I finally just gave up. I was using photos,
Well,
and I just couldn't get anything through there, and didn't really have time to stick it into another one. By the way, I did look at AJ's recording because I couldn't come to the GIMP thing. And it seems to me, I don't know if anyone else is using photos, but GIMP and photos seem to have some very similar things. So there were a lot of things in there that I learned that applied to the photos post-processing software.
Most of the processing software, you can take the principles that AJ was talking about and apply them. I mean, it's certainly much of it's true in Lightroom. You would do it a little differently, but you can do the same thing. So one of the things that struck me, and this might help others, was that maybe we should talk about an approach to how you think in terms of processing. I do my processing very differently to the way that AJ does, and I'm not arguing one's good and one's bad, but there are different ways to think about these things, and process can help. And Tom, on the artifacting, that's one of the big things that I think if you want to look at how that issue is arising and to think about fixing it, that might be a conversation that we should have there. Because
good, that'd be great. Thank you.
I have a very, very different approach to the way that AJ does it, and I notice that the folks who do a lot of heavy processing often have artifacting in, and I'm not sure whether that's part of the tool that they're using or just the process that we go through. We mentioned in that video, by the way, over saving the same JPEG, and I wonder whether a lot of the artifacting that I'm seeing is compression artifacting not just in today's photos, but I think if you get used to the style of particular people, I'm getting to the stage now where even if I don't have a name on, I can usually go, oh, that is so because of the stylistic element. So we might want to think about that. But before I lose a thought, Betty, I think you're being overly harsh on you were commenting on the technical aspects of these photos.
I think it's terrific.
Betty, I have a question about this photograph. The triangle on the
oh, yes, that's
what is that?
It's a little hook that's just holding it, and the light caught it. And the two things I really, I need some help on is at least, or maybe photos just isn't very good at that. But I did try to dim the highlights. Because the light was very harsh, and that was about the best I could do. And then I tried some retouching, and retouching sometimes really works well in photos, for single little dribs and drabs here. But when I tried to do anything larger than that, it just made a mess of it. So I'd like to have something more on, retouching for the various software, because I couldn't tell what was me and what was the software in terms of the limitations.
Yeah. Betty, when you say photos, do you mean the editing software that comes with photos for the Mac?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The one that's, right there.
Okay.
It makes it very easy, going back and forth between all of your Mac stuff and Apple stuff.
Yeah, I've played with that with photos a little more this year, primarily because I had a lot of iPhone photos and so on. And I've been reasonably impressed with it, but I haven't tried to do any major editing. I had a very negative perception of it, but it's actually a lot better than I expected it to be. And I know Mike B uses it almost exclusively, don't you, Mike?
Yes. And I don't do a lot of post-processing. It's mainly adjusting the curves, levels, and stuff like that. But I have used it for some retouching, and I think it works well for getting rid of some minor blemishes and things.
Mhm.
So maybe, Mike, we could think about a photos tutorial at some stage.
Okay, I don't know if I'm that expert in it, but I'll share my experiences. Be happy to.
I think that would be a useful input, because I think we have a wide range of tools in use in this group. For a relatively modest, group in terms of size, we have practically everything that I could think of going on around here. So I think it'd be good to get some cross-fertilization on that, and particularly on techniques, because that tends to be able to be used with whichever tool to a greater.
Yeah, I want Betty's technique on finding these amazing shots.
Yeah.
I agree.
Actually, Graham, I want your you were going to say something about technical, about being too harsh and technical stuff.
I think you're being harsh. I think these are good photos. You are being overly harsh on yourself, in my view. Yeah. I think it's not bad to look at our own work with a harsh eye, but sometimes we need to be, we need to have the good stuff emphasized too. And I think these are great in story. Could they be better in technical? Yeah, but I think they're good enough. And it's nice that you strive to improve those aspects all the time. But I think my take on this, my view only, is that you're being too harsh on these two.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks.
And Betty, I'll say one thing that says that echoes what Graham just said. The close-up of the squirrel, you probably had a number of shots you could have taken that did not include that squirrel's eye.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that would not have been the same photograph.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that was the one to use, and maybe they were all this way, but the catching the eye is key in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I eliminated everything that didn't have a glint in the eye. I tell you what I did try to do here, though, because I always have Graham in the back of my mind saying, I'd get rid of this little white spot here in the middle. So I keep trying. I was trying to retouch it, and then finally I just gave up,
So two observations. One is, it's scary that I frighten you that much, Betty. Please don't. But the other thing that is leaping out to me today that we haven't talked about much, but it came up in my head when I was listening to AJ talk to us about GIMP. And I suspect that it's a generalization. If I'm being overgeneral, I know you guys are going to stop me. But the only mod I would make to this is selective sharpening. So I don't know whether people A, do sharpening at all, and B, when we first get into that. So sharpening's scary, or at least in my experience it is. And then when we start to do it, we start to do it everywhere equally. And the only improvement I'd suggest thinking about here, Betty, would be selective sharpening within the circle where the squirrel's eye and fur is. That's the only suggestion I would make here. And so, there is this whole thing of what do we do globally and what do we do locally? And that's part of the thought process that I was alluding to earlier about the way you tackle your photos. So
Graham, what would you say? What would you hope to accomplish if you used sharpening in the circle?
Oh, I think that you could probably get a little bit more sharpness out of the eye and the fur.
Yes. Yeah.
But you don't want to sharpen the rest. And the thing about the circle there is, so the eye's a focal point for us in any animal, human or otherwise. And then the eye is going to go to the lightest, the sharpest, the highest contrast. Mm-hmm. And so if we choose to, we can use that knowledge to drive the viewer's eye where we want it to go. Mm-hmm. And in this case, my take would be is that this is a little sharper than this. And I would, if I was really wanting to work this, I would want to reverse that.
Yeah.
Not much.
Now the question is whether I have not found in photos that I can do any selective sharpening sort of thing. Now, whether it's actually possible or whether part of the problem when I'm working on these things is I'm just trying to get the program to do something it doesn't do. I did try, actually on my screen, I thought I had it much sharper because I wanted the squirrel and in the circle to be the sharp part, but it doesn't look that way right now.
Yeah. Mike, do you know if there's selective sharpening in photos? I don't.
No, I don't think it does. I think you'd have to have a program that allows you to add a layer.
Right.
And then just on that layer, select that one portion.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, good.
Well, and to say what Graham said in another way, it's all about isolating. Selective sharpening is all about isolating the subject.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for the comments. Helpful.
I'm glad we found them. You sent me two, by the way. I ended up loading it twice. So
thanks for getting them up there.
Yeah, Betty, the one thing that I would say is that if you're going to sharpen the circle, that maybe you unsharpen the green baffle that's on the
squirrel baffle.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that, I would like to see it both ways, I think, because my eye keeps on being drawn to the green, but maybe you wanted it that way.
Well, I did, and this is the irony of the squirrel baffle.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Which green, Leslie? This one?
Yeah.
Or this one?
No, the baffle.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good observation.
Which, by the way, we saw later, the way he got in there, they found a tree that they actually could just jump from there over the top of this baffle and right into.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, so.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video of a guy that does one kind of experiment or another, and he set up a ninja warrior obstacle course in his whole backyard. And if you see that, you'll just quit worrying about squirrels getting into your feeder, because they're going to find a way.
I just put the link in the chat to that video.
Okay. Well, and Mike B also sent a link to the Silver Arts page as well, if you didn't look at the chat box.
Cool, thank you. I've just put it up so it's on the video. Okay, folks.
Great.
I think.
One more piece of business.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Next challenge.
Oh.
Wait, and I have a question. I'm trying to get unmuted. I have a question.
Oh dear. Sorry, Tom. We've been making fun of Mark, and he's sitting here sneakily in the background all the time.
And Graham, what was it you wanted to say to Mark?
Mark, yeah, he's on listen only, I think, so we can do this and laugh. Just something about the horizon on your submitted photograph, Mark. We might want to talk about that. I think you've got a problem.
All in good fun, Mark.
Poor old Mark. He gets all the abuse, huh? Okay, somebody had something else. So, next topic was it?
I have a question. Well, it's just an observation. I got a pro camera for my iPhone, and I wonder if people have experience using that. It might be a topic for exploration at some point in the future.
What was it you got, Tom? I heard the iPhone.
It's called Pro Camera, and it's for the iPhone. It's
an app.
An app for the iPhone. Yeah, it's called Pro Camera, and people were talking about the depth of field, not being able to get depth of field with a phone, and I've just gotten this, and I haven't used it much, and I wonder if I can get. It has aperture priority and speed and shutter priority.
Right.
So I don't see why I couldn't get depth of field.
I have a really old app that I occasionally use on my phone called 645 Pro. I'm wondering if they're related. But that has manual control, but I find it fiddly. It's good. And it also outputs TIFFs, which of course was the other issue up until I think the last version of the phone.
And it's all touchscreen stuff, so it's
okay.
Very nice.
Maybe you'll send Bill a link and Bill can put it into the app. Is it iPhone or all phones?
iPhone.
Just iPhone.
iPhone.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So, Mr. C, what are we going to have as the? Did we decide on a challenge?
No, we haven't.
But we have a long list, don't we? We just take the next one off the list. Helen's usually leaping up at this time. Going, "What do we do?"
Well, I have stuff on here like freeze action, down by the water, sense of humor, pick a color, street photography, floral creativity.
What was the last one?
Floral creativity.
Floral, like flowers?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any preferences? Come on, this is your chance to vote directly. This is democracy at work.
Or do we have a better one?
Or a different one. Yeah. Well, we're going to decide if you don't.
How about color?
You like color, Larry?
Like that, pick a color.
Pick a color.
Do we each pick our own color, or is there going to be a color chosen?
Ah.
I think pick a color. I mean, it could be anything with that, and that maybe narrowing it down to red or blue or something as a dominant color, as a dominant theme.
I think pick a color is broader and would be better
Yeah.
than pick color blue. I don't know.
Or should we pick our own color and have it
Yeah.
dominant part of it?
Okay. Sounds like color is the predominant aspect of the photograph, huh? Or the image.
I think some of these challenges that we've had, I know it's helped me sometimes see things that I normally didn't see before we started doing these kind of wide open ones.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll probably pass a lot of things, but now you're going to start seeing them just because what we're doing here.
Pick own color would work. That'd be good.
Sounds like we have enough people nodding to color. Helen's nodding. That's the royal seal of assent from Helen.
Mike,
Mark's
if you
nodding.
need to have, Mike Stano, if you need to have a color chosen for you, we could pick one for you. If you need it narrowed.
Yes, please. Given that I have no level of creativity left in me, yeah, pick me a color. How about black? Or how about gray? That's my wardrobe.
Cool. All right. That sounds like it. Any other final pieces of business? Sounds like everybody's happy.
And AJ came and went, so.
I saw AJ briefly. Yep. He got fed up with us.
Thank you all. Good meeting.
Thank you. That was great.
Again.
Bye-bye.
Folks, see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.